of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So how do we conquer the mind? Just like with a friend, we're not interested in conquering the friend. We want to have a friendly, loving relationship with our friend. So if we want to make the friend our mind, it means we have to have a loving attitude. And that loving attitude, Krishna explains in the next verse. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Now, the key word here is super soul. Super soul means Krishna, who's always with us. Any species of life we take birth in, even if we're in the lowest of all forms, Krishna's there with us. He's watching us, and he's directing us. And the entire evolutionary system is arranged by Krishna to bring us gradually back to him. So when we attain the human form of life, we, through knowledge, and where do we get this knowledge? By associating with those who are more elevated in spiritual knowledge, by sadhu sang, by hearing from them about the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, and how Krishna is in three different aspects. He's in the spiritual world, enjoying his pastimes. Simultaneously, he's in our heart, waiting for us to turn to him. And then he's also all-pervasive in every single atom. So when the mind comes to the realization that Krishna is always with me in my heart, then we become peaceful. Because if Krishna is our friend, then our mind becomes our friend as well. If we have, just as in the process of surrender that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has taken from the Shastras, Avasya Rakibe Krishna Vishwas Palan, that Krishna will always protect us, and we have to maintain that faith. Even in the Brahma Samhita, that is the final conclusion, that exclusive faith in me is trust. So when we know that Krishna is enjoying in the spiritual world, and we want to go and enjoy with him in our eternal rasa, in our spiritual body, and in order to reach that ultimate goal, Krishna is in our heart directing us. We just have to learn how to hear him. Then we become peaceful, and whatever the dualities are that are agitating the mind, whether it's hot, cold, honor, dishonor, what are the other ones mentioned here? Happiness and distress, they don't affect us anymore because we have a goal to reach. And when we know where we want to go, we can tolerate all of these dualities, and then our mind is conquered. If we simply are meditating on the different distresses we have in this body, then our mind takes control. No, I have to make this arrangement to become happy. I have to go here to get what I want. All of these things, the mind then is directing us. Instead of Krishna directing us, then the mind is directing us. But when we have set our goal to reach Krishna through the process of yoga, and of course we understand that the topmost and the most sublime means for attaining Sri Krishna is through bhakti or devotion, then our mind becomes peaceful because we can tolerate all of these inebrieties and these dualities. So Krishna then goes on to explain. He says here, a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, that's the surits, affectionate benefactors, that's the mitras, our friends, the neutral, the udasin, the mediators, that means if we're having any type of difficulties, that someone will assist us to overcome those difficulties. Those are called the madhyastas. And beyond that, the envious, that's the dveshyas, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with equal mind. Because we're on a path, and that path is back to Krishna. We chose to come to the material world. We've been here for countless lifetimes. We're now in the human body where we can make a choice whether we want to stay here, whether we want to go down. One man in Japan, he just spent 12 lakhs of rupees to get a costume to become a dog. He wanted to become a dog. 12 lakh rupees. So obviously if you want to become a dog, then next lifetime the dog's body is waiting for you. Prabhupada used to talk about, you don't have that here in India, but in America where the sense gratification is out of control, there are young boys and young girls, they spend their whole youth by the ocean. And the ocean has unlimited waves coming in. And they have a board. And what they do is they swim on those waves into the shore. They swim out into the ocean, they catch the wave and swim in again. So their whole meditation is swimming in the ocean. And they're called surfers. They surf. Just like nowadays, in the virtual world, we surf the internet. But these surfers, they surf the ocean. So Prabhupada says, no, they're not surfers, they're sufferers. And next lifetime, because they're thinking all the time of the ocean, so why not become a fish? So in that way, our mind, it's up to us where we, with our intelligence and with the directions from Krishna, where we want to direct our mind. If we want to go back to Krishna, then we have a set plan given by the Guru to follow in this lifetime. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all of those 9 activities spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, that's how we should engage our mind. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda, always in the lotus feet of Krishna. So if we're really serious about going back to the spiritual world, we engage our mind in those 9 activities, and we see equally our well-wishers, our enemies, our benefactors, those who are neutral to us. We even see the saintly persons and the sinners as the same, because we wish the best for both. We wish that they would become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead also. So I hope that answers the question, how we can control our mind. Yes, Prabhu. There's no mic. Come up close then.
Mind is so powerful as mentioned in Bhagavad also.
Yes.
How to accept that. What happens when we engage our mind in Krishna consciousness? There are these forces where we can tolerate these forces.
How can we tolerate the forces of the mind?
What happens when we engage in Krishna consciousness? Like what we get something higher than what the mind forces us to do? Or
Well, the mind is with us always. Thinking, feeling, and willing. Those are the activities of the mind. Hankering and lamentation. So, hankering and lamentation, we can hanker for something spiritual, and we can lament that if only in this lifetime I can attain Krishna, or we can hanker for something material, a beautiful wife, children, whatever the hankering might be, and we can lament upon losing something material. So that is up to us, the self, the spirit soul, what we choose to hanker and lament for. Because once we set a goal to get something, then the thinking, the feeling, and the willing, those 3 activities of the mind come into place. So we have to, before we allow the mind to rage, we have to set our goal in life. It's very important that we have a goal in our life, right? That's there are Sanskrit terms for that goal. Now that goal is set by the spiritual master. He gives us instructions. Just as Srila Prabhupada, he received his instruction long before he was initiated. At the age of 21, for 2 hours he was with his spiritual master. At that time, his spiritual master gave him his lifetime order, that you're an intelligent young man, you should preach this Krishna consciousness in the English language. It took him 11 years to finally take Diksha. And even after taking Diksha, he was only with the spiritual master for 3 years before his spiritual master disappeared. 15 days before his spiritual master disappeared, he gave Srila Prabhupada the exact same instruction, that you should preach this Krishna consciousness in the English language. It will do good for you, and it'll do good for others. So this was Srila Prabhupada's goal. And it wasn't that he was able to take it up immediately. It took him his whole lifetime. So we get a goal from our spiritual master. He's the guide who takes us back to Krishna. And we should seek that goal. We should seek instructions from our spiritual master, how we can keep our mind steady in Krishna consciousness. This is the secret, to take shelter of the instructions of the spiritual master. It's the only thing that will anchor us. Maybe I should do that, maybe I should do this. I have one devotee coming to me regularly. Well, I hear that the highest thing is Go Seva. So I'll give up the book distribution, I'll go do Go Seva. They go to do Go Seva. Well, it's very nice if we can serve the devotees, I'll go work in the kitchen now. And the mind is wandering here, there, and everywhere. If that devotee would just go to their spiritual master and say, please tell me, what can I do for you? Then the whole life is set. All it takes is one sentence. And your life, your mind, your intelligence, your senses, everything is fixed. So we have the example of Prabhupada's life to see how that happened. It wasn't immediate. It took him so many years to prepare. Any more questions?
हरे कृष्ण दंडवत प्रणाम माता जी। हमारे मन में अगर बुरे विचार आने लगे तो उससे कैसे बाहर निकलें?
किसके प्रचार? किसके विचार? बुरे विचार। बुरे विचार। This takes practice. Just if you, I'll have to answer in English because we're speaking in English. The question is that if we have bad thoughts in our mind, how do we get rid of those bad thoughts? So, in the morning, we wake up after sleeping. When we sleep, the body is repairing and growing, and it gives off a lot of poisons at night. It comes through the skin, through the perspiration, just like our mouth. When we wake up in the morning, although we haven't eaten anything all night, the mouth has unclean smell because all the impurities come out of the body at that time when we sleep. So what's the first thing we do in the morning? We cleanse ourselves. We evacuate, we cleanse our mouth, then we take a full shower. Now, if someone's in the shower, you can't accuse them that you're so dirty. I'm in the shower, I'm trying to get clean. So when we take up the process of Krishna consciousness, we're in that cleansing process. And especially when we first come to Krishna consciousness, we might have a very polluted mind. Our habits might be very polluted because no training, especially if you're brought up in the Western countries where there's no culture whatsoever. You don't know your left hand from your right hand. So all of these things, when you take to Krishna consciousness, you're in the shower. You're getting cleansed. And it takes some time. And therefore, we can't criticize a person. If bad thoughts come into our mind, all right, that's why we have the Maha Mantra. And that's why every day, just like we cleanse the outside of our body by bathing, we have to cleanse our mind by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's why it's called Maha Mantra. Externally, we cleanse our body. Internally, we cleanse our mind by chanting. And that's why even though the holy name is so powerful, just by saying the name Krishna once, all of the reactions to our sinful activities are eradicated. But we commit more sins every day, just by breathing. So therefore, every day, minimum 16 rounds is required to cleanse our mind, give our mind a bath, just like we've given our body a bath, first thing in the morning. That's why it's recommended that we chant early in the morning, preferably Brahma Muhurta hour, because that's the time of, it's very pure time of the day. And if we let our rounds go towards later in the day, then the modes of passion, and nighttime, if you try to finish your rounds, it's mode of ignorance. It'll take you 4 times longer to chant a round than if you chant in the morning, because you can concentrate in the morning. So bad thoughts will naturally be there, just like every morning when we wake up, the body is unclean. So those bad thoughts in the body, we need to cleanse those bad thoughts by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
What is the real purpose of our life here
on earth? Yes. What is the real purpose of our life here on earth? Earth is a very special planet. There are 14 planetary systems. And the Earth planet is right in the middle. Now in the higher planetary systems, Bur, Bhuva, Svaha, and then up above that is Jana Loka, Mahaloka, Siddha Loka, Brahma Loka, and then above Brahma Loka is the Brahma Jyoti and the spiritual world. And then below the Earth planet are the hellish planets, where you go downwards. Because of sinful activities, you take birth there, and you have, in the earthly planet, the enjoyment and the suffering is almost equal. On the higher planets, the enjoyment increases, and in the lower planets, the suffering increases. So the reason we take birth here on the earthly planet is it's the ground level for all living entities to perform their fruitive activities, whether they're going to go up or whether they're going to go down. So when we take birth here on earth, there's not too much suffering, there's not too much enjoyment, but there's enough suffering that we know we want to get out of this material world. And if we're fortunate, Brahmanda Brahmite Konya Bhagavan, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. When Krishna sees in our heart that why am I suffering so much, then he sends us to the association of devotees. He directs us somehow or other. And that's why the devotees are so merciful. They go out on Sankirtan, they distribute Bhagavad Gita and other spiritual books. They do everything possible to give the suffering living entities here on this earthly planet the opportunity to take up the process by which they can elevate themselves all the way back to the spiritual world. Because we can, one time a great devotee, his name was Jayananda, Prabhupada later ordained him as the saint of ISKCON. It was he who began the Ratha Yatras in ISKCON. And he worked so hard without caring for his bodily necessities that he developed leukemia and he died at a very early age. So when Prabhupada heard that he had left his body, he said if he had any material desires, then he could go up to the heavenly planets and enjoy for some time and then go back to Godhead. But certainly he has gone directly back to Godhead. So we have a choice, and that's what Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. The yogis, they decide when they want to give up their bodies according to which planet they want to go to for different types of material enjoyment. But the bhaktas, they're not interested in material enjoyments or getting the mystic yogas, as the mystic cities that in Siddhaloka, all the residents have all the 8 mystic cities. They can travel all over the universe, make themselves as light as a feather, as heavy as a mountain. And they want to enjoy like that. They want to become powerful. So they take birth in Siddhaloka. But bhaktas have no attraction for material enjoyment, for liberation, or for the siddhas, or even for entering into the Brahmajyoti. The bhaktas simply want to serve Krishna. That is their pleasure. So our purpose here on earth is to decide where do we want to go in our next lifetime and prepare for that. Just like if you want to go on a trip, first you have to make the money to buy the ticket. Well, the first thing is you have to decide where you want to go, how much the ticket's going to cost, and then you buy the ticket, you sit in the airplane, you take the trip, and you reach your destination. So in the same way, if we want to go back to the spiritual world, there's a price you pay. You know what that price is? Yes, lolyam. Greed. Greed for getting back to Krishna. We want to serve Krishna in the spiritual world. If you want to go to Brahmaloka, there's a procedure. If you want to go to the moon, like they're trying to go to the moon now, they have no success. They're trying to go to Mars. They're in Mars, but they can't live there, so what's the use? So we want to go to Krishna Loka. And that's the decision we have to make while we're here on this earthly planet, this middle planet. Do we want to go up? Do we want to go back to the spiritual world? Or do we want to fall down again? What's wrong with becoming a dog? Dogs have it great. They don't have to work. Their master feeds them all the time. They just sit in the house. They can have all the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending they want. So some people think like that. If you think like that, then yes, become a dog. Or D-O-G, G-O-D. Become godly and go back to Krishna. So this is the deciding place where we want to go next.
In morning Bhagavatam class, the statement came that we are doing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti.
Yes.
And to go back on Goloka Vrindavan.
Yes.
We have to be on the Raga, we have to practice Raga Bhakti.
There's no, he also, it's described that both the Vaidhi Bhaktas and the Raganuga Bhaktas they're doing exactly the same thing externally. It's an internal development. And that comes by first following. There's a procedure that's described in the Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami and by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Madhurya Kadambini. First comes Ado Guru Vashraya. The first step in spiritual life is to take shelter of a spiritual master. Then comes Sadhu Sangha, when you associate with the devotees. By associating with the devotees, then you develop Nishtha. Now, then comes, there's Anartha Nivriti. Before the Nishtha, there's Anartha Nivriti and there's Bhajana Kriya. So this is the Vaidhi Bhakti stage. Anartha Nivriti means we give up all of our bad habits. And when we can give up our bad habits, then we can engage in Bhajana Kriya. We can do bhajan. This is that step upwards towards the Raganuga Bhakti stage. So first, by taking shelter of a spiritual master, he instructs you in Vaidhi Bhakti. You get rid of your bad habits. You go on that process of Vaidhi Bhakti, and all the external activities are exactly the same in Vaidhi Bhakti as in Raganuga Bhakti. Both the Vaidhi Bhakta and the Raganuga Bhakta, they're chanting Hare Krishna on their beads. They're going to Mangal Artik every day. They're engaging in service every day. They're only eating Krishna Prasadam. But the Vaidhi Bhakta, He is doing it because his spiritual master told him to do it. And the Raganuga Bhakti, he's doing it because he loves to do these things because it brings him closer to Krishna. So again, it hinges on the mind. That's why the mind can either be the worst enemy or the best friend. If we have our mind trained by chanting Hare Krishna, that I will never take anything outside. I will never eat anything outside. Because we understand that whoever's prepared that food, their sinful consciousness goes into the food. And when we eat that food, we get that consciousness also. So we take a vow, we'll only take Krishna Prasadam. And then by only taking Krishna Prasadam, our consciousness becomes purified. And then our consciousness becomes purified, means our senses become purified. And gradually our whole body becomes spiritualized. And that's why the pure devotee, their body isn't burnt, because there are no impurities. They've purified their body, their senses, their mind, everything, all their activities, and they're already in their spiritual bodies, although they're doing exactly the same thing that the Vaidhi Bhakta is doing. Going to Mangalarti, before that rising early, bathing, chanting, going to Mangalarti, engaging in service all day, all the same activities. But it's the consciousness that's different.
The next development of the class was there. Because we are with God Nitai, we are under the shelter of Panchatattva. So we will go in the realm of Golok Vrindavan where the Lord Chaitanya is there. So question comes that the person who is practicing Krishna consciousness in Islam, it means he doesn't have access to Golok?
No. The class this morning was given by a devotee who likes to read books, but maybe doesn't fully understand everything that he's reading. Because the pastimes of Gaur-Nitai and the pastimes of Goloka Vrindavan are simultaneous in the spiritual world. It's going on exactly the same. What do Gaur-Nitai do? They meditate on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And all of the associates are the associates in Goloka Vrindavan. So those pastimes are identical. Externally, in order to preach, you might have, in the Krishna Consciousness Society, which is going back to Lord Chaitanya, you might have a preacher's body, a sadhak's body. He called it sadhak. Just like the 6 Goswamis. Externally, they appeared to be sannyasis and renunciates. But internally, they were engaged 24 hours a day in their service to Sri Sri Radha Madhava. Same body. But the consciousness was in the spiritual world. So it's not that it's one or the other. No, it's identical. And externally, one may appear to be a sadhak, dressed like a sadhak, behaving like a sadhak, but internally, they're with Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world, feeding them betel nuts, dressing them, bathing them, all the things that go on in the spiritual world. No difference whatsoever. So he made a distinction that wasn't meant to be made a distinction today in class.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm a person who never even loved my own parents. How can I love the Supreme Person? I don't know how to love even material people. How can I feel love towards Krishna? Please, Mataji, answer.
There's no question of love in the material world. We have had unlimited parents. We have had cockroach parents, we've had butterfly parents, we've had bird parents, and I can go through 8,400,000 different types of parents that we've had. There's no question of love. We can respect our parents because through them we were able to take a human birth and get the opportunity to associate with devotees. So we respect them. But love is reserved only for Krishna. Just like watering the root of a tree. When you love Krishna, when you put water on the root, that water goes up and nourishes all the leaves and branches and every single part of the tree. So when you direct your propensity to love to Krishna, automatically you love all the parts and parcels of Krishna, not just your parents, everybody. The ants, the clouds, the trees, you love everyone because you see everyone as a part and parcel of Krishna, your most beloved. So he's trying to do it backwards. It's not that you separately try to love your parents. No, you love Krishna, and when you love Krishna, automatically you'll love everyone, including your parents.
As per Rupa Goswami qualification for Raganuga Bhakti is intense greed. Is it necessary that this greed will come only at stage of anardhanini?
Only at the stage of Well, one time Prabhupada was handing out prasadam to the devotees, and he put a gulab jamun into one of the devotees' hand, and the devotee was looking at it, and then all of a sudden another devotee took it away and ate it. He said, Prabhupada, he took the gulab. He said, yes, he's showing advancement. So greed, if we know that something's going to help us in our spiritual progress, we should be greeted to do that. Now, nowadays it doesn't go on, but previously we had no temples, we had no deities, so we did Sankirtan all day. We'd take prasadam, go out in the morning, come back in the evening, take prasadam again. That was our day. So, and we loved to do it because we knew that not only would we make advancement, but anyone who saw us chanting, they would also be making advancement. So there was a greed in that. We wanted to do that. We wanted to do engage in Sankirtan because it would take us back to Krishna faster because we were engaged in compassionate activities. So you can be greedy at any stage. Anartha Nivriti, yes, Anartha Nivriti means when you're following the four regulative principles, basically. You're giving up the anarthas, which are the mahapaps. So, until you give up those four sinful activities, it's very difficult to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. The best you can do is feed a person like that prasadam. And gradually, by eating prasadam, he will give up those sinful activities because he'll develop a higher taste. So when you've given up those four sinful activities, then you can develop a desire to engage in your spiritual activities, the bhajana kriya. Just talk loud. All right. So I was just listening to Prabhupada explain that the process for offering bhoga is to offer it to the Guru, and the Guru offers it to Krishna. This is the process that Prabhupada has given us for offering whatever we want to eat. We, with the Guru pranams, we offer to the Guru, and the Guru then offers it to Krishna, because we are not on the platform that we can directly offer to Krishna. The Guru can offer it to Krishna. So this is, if you want to, whatever you cook in good consciousness, you offer it to your Guru, and your Guru offers it to Krishna. That's the process. It's not that you offer it to Krishna and sometimes he accepts it and sometimes he doesn't accept it. It's nothing like that. You offer it to your Guru, it's been cooked according to the hygienic principles, it's been cooked according to punctuality. You should have fixed times when you make offerings, and the Guru will then offer it to Krishna. And if we are preparing something not in proper consciousness, the Guru will understand that, and therefore he'll reject it. You understand? Okay.
Also, sometimes we get food from outside without onion garlic. This is a question from someone that I know, and then they offer it to Krishna through the mantras.
Okay.
So, is it okay because the consciousness that has been made by another person is there in the food?
Well, there is a principle that if you pay for something, through the payment it becomes purified, but that's not for us to make a habit of doing. That's in emergencies. For instance, one example was Prabhupada, when we had absolutely no centers here at all in India, the devotees were traveling from city to city on trains. And one time they stopped at a train station, and Prabhupada saw that they were selling samosas on the platform, and he had the devotees bring some samosas. They paid for the samosas and brought them, and Prabhupada ate the samosa. It was an exceptional circumstance. So the payment, by the payment, it becomes purified. But we don't make a habit of that. The habit is that we're not eating for our pleasure. We're cooking to please Krishna, to feed him, and then we're getting the prasadam back. So if we're buying things from outside, it means we're eating for ourselves, right? So the best thing is, if you have to work at a job, before you go to your job, you cook something, you offer it to Krishna, and then all day long you have prasadam in your tiffin. You know you're going to need prasadam, so plan ahead. Every day we have to eat, right? We know we're going to have to eat. So instead of planning to go out and buy something, before you go out of the house, you cook something and keep it in your tiffin, right? That's devotional. Plan ahead. Feed Krishna, and then you get his prasadam.
Krishna mentioned this four anathas. Four ways, those sins are anathas. Anathas, like, but outside this attachments, envy, these are also anathas, no?
Attachment and meat? Envy.
Anger.
Yes.
These are not calling forth basic sins, but they are also anathas, no?
There can be spiritual attachment, spiritual envy. All of those things can be there also in the spiritual world. It all comes, everything comes from Krishna.
But I want to know material. I have still have material attachments. So this is also anatha.
Yeah, you just have to transform those material attachments into, just add Krishna. So many zeros, you put one in the front, and oh, then you have lakhs and crores. Well, give an example.
Like my son's kids, I still worry for them, whether they will be successful or all that. They are also chanting, I'm also chanting, everybody is Krishna conscious, but
Yes.
I'm still attached to them. They become successful in material as well as spiritual life.
Okay. Now, Srila Prabhupada's father saw things differently, because Srila Prabhupada's father was a Vaishnava, and his father was a Vaishnava all the way back, generation after generation. So Prabhupada, when his name was Abai, a little boy, he didn't like to go to school. So his father would say to him, "Oh, you're not going to school today? No, I'll go tomorrow." "All right, you go tomorrow." So his father had 3 aims for Abai. He wanted him to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, he wanted him to become a good mridanga player, and he wanted him to become a servant of Srimati Radharani. And his mother, she said, what good is it to learn mridanga? What's that? No, he should go to London, he should become a barrister in London. She was worried about his material progress. But the father was only interested in his spiritual progress. And that got supported later by Prabhupada's spiritual master. So yes, the two go side by side. And that's what's described in the Ishopanishad. You have the 2 rails side by side. The material life and the spiritual life. So materially, you have to maintain the body. But what is the question of success in the material world? Everything is lost at the time of death. Everything. Your bank balance, your beautiful body, your beautiful home, all your money, and everything is lost. So where is the success? It's planned failure. So the devotee, they just aspire for the minimum, just so that they can engage in service to Krishna. And then look what Krishna does. Look what Krishna did to Prabhupada. He gave him 108 temples all over the world. He went penniless, and he came back crorepati, multi-crorepati. But he didn't take anything with him. He left it all here.
He's already Nitya Mukta. We are like in a conditioned souls. So we can't aspire for that.
Well, if we have an example, then we can get inspiration from that. And he had 3 sons, and none of them followed him to Krishna consciousness. His material life was a failure. The business failed, the children weren't interested, the wife wasn't interested. In disgust, he left the house one night and didn't go back. Although he tried like anything to get his daughters married, to set up things for his sons, but they weren't interested. So each person, your sons, everyone, they have their own path, and the best success you can plan for your sons, or son, I don't know how many children you have, 1, yeah. You simply give them Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, I'm there, but still,
Okay.
Both things are there.
Both things are there, yes, side by side. You don't want your son to be a fool, then he's an enemy.
My wife is also there. She's also spiritual initial devotee, but still she has attachments to material life. She don't want to come to Vrindavan. She wants to stay in Delhi only. So I am stuck whether I should shift here or not.
Oh, we can talk later about that. Delhi is also part of the Dham. Krishna spent a lot of time in Delhi, visiting with the Pandavas, Indraprastha, Hastinapur. It's one of the Dhams, Delhi. So she might have an attraction like that for Krishna. That's why Prabhupada established Radha Parthasarathi. Wherever Krishna is, Radharani is also there, even on the battlefield. So if your wife likes it in Delhi, she can be Krishna conscious in Delhi. A lot of pure devotees are in Delhi. And if you love Vrindavan, well, what is your age now?
56.
56. Well, according to Shastra, at the age of 50, that's the time to come to Vrindavan. So.
That's why I'm attached to that. Yes, they should come. My son should also shift into Vrindavan and all that.
Well, you can come and go. There are 4 different stages before you take sannyas. There's kutichak. That means when you have your home, your wife, your family, but you live separately from them, and your wife brings you prasadam. That's kutichak, when you've given up your house, right? Then after that, you get a little bit of more faith in Krishna. The next stage is bahudak, that you don't depend on your wife's cooking anymore, but you're happy to take prasadam in the temple or different programs, or you start offering to your deities. You're not dependent on the food that your wife is cooking for you, bahudak. And then, next stage is paribrajakacharya. That's when you start to preach and you travel all over. Many, many devotees are on that stage. They're not sannyasis yet, but they're still traveling and preaching. And then finally, the fourth stage, that's Paramahamsa. And that's when you've given up all material attachments. You can't do it artificially. It's a gradual process. Prabhupada tried like anything to make his family Krishna conscious. But when he went away on a business trip, he came back and his wife had sold his Srimad Bhagavatam for tea biscuits. What could he do? Tea or me? So you have no control. Sometimes Krishna makes it difficult in family life so that you'll give it up. Or sometimes he gives you a wonderful wife, initiated wife, so that you can stay in family life and together execute Krishna consciousness. So you're also initiated? Yes, so you have to take advice from your spiritual master according to whether you should remain in Grihastha life at age 56, whether you should prepare for Vanapras, for separating from the family, so that you can go on through those stages. And it's scary to give up the family, because we're used to comfort. It's very, to give up your wife, that means no more home-cooked meals, no, who's going to do my laundry for me,
We are worshipping both Krishna Balaram and Radha Shyam Sundar. So isn't it Rasa Abhas, one in Sakhya and one in Madhurya Ras?
No, it's not.
If one...
Is it part of the same question? Oh, no, I'll explain that. The different rasas are compared to the 5 material elements. Each element has a particular quality. In ether, there's sound, right? So that's like Shantaras. There's one quality, appreciation. And then after that, there's Dasyaras. So Dasyaras is compared to air. In air, there's both sound and touch, 2 qualities. So in Dasyaras, there's both appreciation and a desire to serve. Then there's Sakyaras. It has 3 qualities. After, there's ether, air, and then fire. In fire, there's sight, right? And in Sakyaras, there are 3 qualities. Appreciation, one wants to serve, and seeing oneself on an equal level with the Lord, as a friend, right? Then after that comes Vatsalyaras, which is compared to water. Now in the material element of water, you have sound, you have touch, you have, the next one is sight, and then you have also taste. 4 qualities. So in Vatsalyaras, you have appreciation, you have the desire to serve, you have a friendship, and over and above that, you have a protective attitude of the Lord, that if I don't feed him, he'll die. So because you see the Lord as someone, your love is so great that you see yourself as the protector of the Supreme Lord. And then finally in Madhurya Ras, there are 5 qualities, and that is earth. Earth has all the 4 previous ones, plus it has aroma. So in Madhurya Ras, all of those 5 things are there. There's sound, there's touch, There's sight, there's taste, and there's aroma. So it's not a question of rasa bus, it's a development of the rasas. And all of those qualities are there in fullness in Madhurya Ras. And that's why in Madhurya Ras, it's not that only the gopis worship Radha and Krishna. No, in Goloka Vrindavan, the clouds are serving Radha and Krishna, the cows, the trees, the dirt, the grains of sand, the servants, every single rasa is serving that Madhurya Rasa with great love, with the topmost quantity of love that they can express. And Krishna, he reciprocates according to their capacity of love. He embraces the cow, and the cow is feeling the topmost ecstasy when Krishna embraces the cow. And he embraces Radharani also. For Krishna, the embrace is the same, but the devotee feels a different intensity of love. So that's how you can worship all together. Gaurnitai, Krishna Balaram, and Radhashyam Sundar.
If one not having onion garlic,
Not having what?
if one not having onion garlic,
Onion.
non-veg, alcohol, but take coffee, can he be a tulsi mala?
Can he be a what?
Tulsi mala.
Can he wear, oh, you can wear tulsi mala.
If they are taking coffee.
No, you should wear tulsi mala. And coffee, you should understand that coffee is an intoxicant. And by taking intoxication, there are 4 sins and there are 4 restrictions to those sins. And they match exactly. If we engage in meat eating, then our mercy is reduced. If we engage in illicit sex, then our cleanliness is reduced. If we engage in gambling, then our truthfulness is reduced. And if we engage in intoxication, then our austerity is reduced. So if you take any type of intoxication, even coffee and tea, you'll find it difficult to be regulated in your sadhana. The coffee won't allow you to go to sleep on time, and then you'll be too tired to wake up in the morning. So if you're really serious about spiritual life, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness, and austerity, those are the 4 qualities that we develop when we give up those 4 prohibitive activities. So whoever's asking this question is robbing themselves of the opportunity to become steady in their sadhana by still drinking coffee. And if one drinks coffee for taste, there's so many non-intoxicating beverages that one can drink that taste almost exactly like coffee. They can take chicory, so many different things now that they can take. And actually they can be offered to Krishna. You take barley and you roast it and you grind it, taste it, and you take dhanya, roast that with some fennel. It's wonderful, wonderful.
The last question is sannyas forbidden in Kali Yuga as per Chaitanya Charitamrita?
As per Shastras, yes, is forbidden, but the type of sannyas that Srila Prabhupada gave was simply for the purpose of preaching. They weren't following all the strict rules and regulations of sannyas. It's not possible in this age to follow so strictly. So 4 things are prohibited in Kali Yuga: horse sacrifice, cow sacrifice, the older brother marrying or impregnating the wife of the younger brother, and sannyas. So those 4 things are prohibited. But the sannyas that Prabhupada gave, that was instituted by his spiritual master, the Tridandi sannyas in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is purely for the purpose of dedicating one's body, mind, and words to the to the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach Krishna consciousness. It's not the strict vows that sannyasis would take as in Mayavadi sannyasis.